Hello, and welcome to episode 10 of the Knit and Grace podcast. Hello, and welcome back if you are a returning viewer. If you are new here, my name is Mia, and I am the maker behind Knit and Grace. And today, just bring you our regular monthly podcast episode. And yeah, not much to say. If you've been following me on social media, you know that my husband and I recently came down with COVID. And so if I sound a little congested, that is why. We're over our initial illness period, but I'm still quite congested, and I have been, and I probably will be for a while yet. But luckily I've gotten my sense of taste back. My sense of smell still not 100% back, which actually is probably a good thing, seeing as we're heading into another smoggy weekend here in the Northeast because of the Canadian wildfires. But yeah, for the most part, we're kind of recovered from the initial illness period. I still have to take a few naps during the day. My energy is pretty up and down. But yeah, heading into the long weekend and hoping that I can rest a bit before heading back into the office for the first time in 3 weeks. So it'll be interesting commuting back into the office next week. But that's neither here nor there. The reason I bring it up is just in case you notice that I'm congested, and then we'll see how I edit this, but there might be some weird stops along the way. If I need to like stop for water or anything like that, I will try to edit any weird pauses out of today's video. But yeah, I just wanted to go ahead and jump right in. We can start with what I'm wearing today. So today I am wearing my Anker summer shirt by Petite Knit, and so this was featured as an FO in last month's episode, if you haven't already caught that. And I knit this up in Lion Brand Kobu in the color mauve, and so far it's holding up pretty well. I've worn it a few times. I finally got around to, blocking it. I haven't taken any FO pictures of it yet. I have to hopefully do that this weekend when I have some time. But I did take a picture of it on the hanger, which I can insert here for you. And actually, I'll just go ahead and stand up so that you can see what it looks like. So here it is. This is what it looks like. And I kind of made up my own sizing, as I mentioned, and I still haven't gotten around to figuring out all my stitch counts, but this is the yoke here, and then you will notice that the front is a little lower than the back, and that's because I added in short row shaping right after the split for sleeves. And so I did knit my sleeves about a ½ inch shorter than the pattern calls for, and then I knit my body for 10 inches after the underarm split, and then I did the ribbing. So this is like the perfect not quite full length, not quite cropped, kind of like regular length, so that I can wear it both with my high-waisted. I can do like a mini tuck if I wanted to, and then I can also wear it with my dresses if I wanted to. I could always just do like a full belt tuck if I wanted to wear it with my dress, and it's not too long. So that is what it looks like. Okay, I think that's the first time ever that I've stood up to show you all what I'm wearing. But yeah, we can go ahead and jump right in to the finished objects. So for finished objects, I don't have too much to show you today, primarily because one of my finished objects is actually a preview knit that I knit for Isolde Teague, so I cannot share that one with you just yet. So I technically have 3 finished objects, 2 that were actually finished this month, and one of those I can't show you. So I guess we will start with the finished object that I actually finished earlier this year. And so this is an object that I wasn't able to show you all. And I'm just gonna pull up my phone here. But what I will do is I will insert pictures of this top here for you, both a picture that I snapped of the sweater before I sent it off, as well as the pictures that Barocco put out. But essentially this is a sample that I knit for Barocco. The pattern is called Mount Airy, and it is by Asa Buchta. And she is one of their main designers, and I think she might be like the director of design now, that Amy Christophers has left the company. But yes, I am on the Barocco roster of sample knitters, and so I typically knit anywhere between 2 to 3 samples for them a year. And so this is a sample that I knit for them back in February. So I actually was knitting this when we were in Hilton Head, and it is a, as you can see, it is a pullover sweater, and it is knit in 2 of their yarn lines held together. So the Fika, which is the yarn that is giving it the marled look, so like the variegated look, that is a variegated yarn, held with Ariel, which is their silk mohair, which I actually have featured in some of my projects here on the channel before. And so the description is a simple and snugly knit pullover worked in Fika, held together with Ariel to give it an extra layer of cozy. Mount Airy is worked in pieces from the bottom up and seamed. The collar stitches are picked up around the neck and worked in the round. So yeah, so this is that sample. In terms of the pattern information, it is available for a bust size of 35 inches to 71 inches, which is 89 centimeters to 180 centimeters. And it is meant to be worn with a recommended ease of 4 to 8 inches or 10 to 20 centimeters. And it is knit on US 6 or 4 millimeter needles and 8 or 5 millimeter needles. I actually personally for the sample got gauge on 7 millimeter or 7 US 7, which is I think a 4.5 millimeter needle for my main needle. So I used that as my main needle instead of the size 8. But otherwise, you know, this is knit exactly to the pattern specifications because it is a sample. So the second finished object that I have to share with you all today, and this is one that I wore actually in the acquisitions portion of last month's podcast, and that is my Parnell. And this is what it looks like. Let's see. I'll go ahead and also insert a picture of me wearing this. here for you all to see. But this is a free pattern that was released by Barocco Design Studio. And so yeah, so let's see, let me fold this back up. And then, here we go. So that's what it looks like all folded up. But I was really inspired by all of the striped patterns that are going on, that are being released. And I think stripes are just very nautical, very summer feeling. And I came across this pattern and I just really loved the way that the stripes were distributed. So this is a free pattern, and as I mentioned in my last episode, it's not fully size inclusive. It only goes up to a 57-inch bust, but because it is a free pattern, I feel comfortable sharing it with you all because you can always just download the pattern and either make adjustments for your own size, or you can download the pattern if you like sort of the look and feel of the pattern and apply it to your favorite size inclusive drop shoulder sweater pattern. So it is knit on a DK weight gauge, and I used Woolly Knit 100% cotton cones for mine, held double. So their cotton cones are a light fingering weight, and so I held double will give me that DK weight. I knit it on US 5 or 3.75 millimeter needle as my main needle, and I worked the 6th size, which I believe was 52, and I think that there's 2 more sizes, so I think that there's a total of 8 sizes if I remember correctly, or it might be 7. So there's either 1 or 2 more sizes above the size that I knit. In terms of the pattern itself, I actually knit it pretty much to pattern. I didn't make any changes with the exception, well, I didn't make any sort of count changes, I should say, but I did make it short sleeve, so the pattern is a long sleeve pattern. So I did shorten the sleeves, so I just worked a few rounds in the round in my stripe pattern, and I did do a little bit of decreasing, and all of the information on this is on my Ravelry pattern page, so you can check that out. And then the pattern has garter edge finishings both on the bottom, which I did do the bottom garter edge, and it's a high-low. But it also has garter edge finishings on the neckband and the arm bands, which I chose to do a 1x1 rib instead. So I did a 1x1 rib for my top finishings, and then I did do the garter as it calls for in the pattern. So I think that is it for this pattern. In terms of yarn usage, I did use the majority of the cream color, which is the main color of the cone. So I used about 319 grams in the sweater itself, and then accounting for my gauge swatch, I had about 75 grams left over of the cream color. And then the navy color, I only used 98 grams inside of the sweater. I think I used about 2 grams of the navy for the stripes in my gauge swatch. So I have about 300 grams left of the navy, which I can use for another summer top. So next up we have the whips, or the works in progress. And the first one that I'm showing you is, I think, this one is the only repeat offender to the podcast, and it is my Straya, which I continue to hold in this duster bag from Hohi & Co. And I actually did make quite a bit of progress on this. So last time you all saw this, it was only the body. And so I did weave in all my ends. There were tons of ends to weave in. And then I knit the first sleeve here. And then I also picked up and knit the button band. And so you can see where I have my my markers, my little, stitch markers, just marking out where I'll put the buttons. And so as I've mentioned before on this one, I am knitting the 5th size, which I believe is spot on. It's just, is it 46 inches? It might be like, no, I think it's like 49 inches, which is I think the recommended ease for the pattern for my bust, which is 46 inches, and I am knitting this on US 2 or 2.75 millimeter needles. And so for this one, again, I'm knitting woolly knit, but this time it is their wool as my main, again in the color cream. And then my stripes are leftover linen quill, Pro Soho linen quill from my Vertices Unite. And so the colors I'm using are lychee pink, turmeric yellow, kiln red, and Stillwater blue. And so that is my Straya. I made quite a good amount of progress on this one. I did prioritize finishing at least that first sleeve this past month. So let's see. Next up, I have this next project in something that I don't want to show you yet, so I need to pull it out first. Okay, so the next project that I have to show you, and actually the next 3 projects that I have to show you are all brand new projects. But this first one is the Tuku, and this is by Weechin of the Petite Knitter. And I mean, this is just absolutely lovely. I am knitting this up in Woolen Twine Thrive, which you may or may not know is an unspun yarn. And this pattern actually was designed in a DK weight yarn, but because of the nature of the unspun and Thrive being a thicker unspun yarn, you are able to get gauge once you block your swatch and everything blooms quite beautifully. And so these are the colors from Eula's latest collection. And so the beige color is called Barley and the brown color is called Malt. And so I've actually gone ahead and, finished all of the color work. So the color work is finished. And I believe I only used 49 grams of the contrasting color. And so now I'm on to just working the body. And so I am knitting this one in the 6th size, which is a 51 inch. And I am knitting it on the, I'm knitting it, I think, 1 needle size lower than the recommended. I'm knitting it on a US 3, which is a 3.25, although I did go up to a 4 or a 3.5 for the color work section, but I was able to get gauge on my main section on a size 3. And yeah, knitting this has been an experience. Knitting color work with unspun yarn single is definitely an experience. It actually was my main project while I was sick, so I think it was perfect for that because it was just the color work pattern is very easy to memorize, row to row, or round to round I should say, and it's very rhythmic, and just the care that you have to take into knitting with unspun yarn, especially knitting color work. I knit color work both English and continental, so I'm a continental knitter, meaning that I hold my yarn in my left hand and I pick my yarn, versus English style where you throw or flick. And so when I knit color work, I do knit continental and English. And as an English knitter, I actually throw, I don't flick. So that also is an extra sort of movement that I do. So, knitting this was really nice experience. Although I did have to be extra careful not to, sort of split my threads too often. But what else to say about this? So far, I haven't planned for any modifications. The pattern does include a bust dart if you need extra room in the front, but I'm knitting it at quite a large size. When I tried it on, I think that it definitely fits perfectly around the body. I'm a little concerned about the sleeves. The number of stitches on the sleeves are quite a bit much. So if I knit this again, I might knit like the smaller size and then distribute for the body and sleeves differently. Because the thing with me is I have a larger bust, but the rest of my body is petite. But I did want an oversized fit, so that's why I chose to go with the 51 inch as opposed to the 48 inch size. I think it's 48 inch. So I did know that going in, but even then I didn't expect there to be as many sleeve stitches as there are. So it'll just be a little extra oversized. So my plan for this one is, because it is oversized, I'm not going to include any bust darts. And so you have the option of knitting it cropped length or full length, and then the sleeves also crop length or a longer length, and or bracelet length or full length, I should say. So what I'm going to do is when I pick this back up, I'm going to knit the body to the cropped length, and then I'm going to work the sleeves and then see how I feel. I'm definitely going to work the sleeves bracelet length. I'm not going to do them full length. And then see how I feel about the fit, if I'm going to make it cropped or full length. I have a feeling that I'll make it full length so that it can be sort of like a super cozy, worn with leggings in the summer, not in the summer, in the winter kind of sweater. But that's kind of my plan for the tutu. So my next two whips are actually in my town bag, which I feel like now has made an appearance in every episode since I made it. But this is, I kind of have a new knitting setup, and so because of the nature of it, where it's like really big, and when you open it, it kind of just stays open like a bucket. It's been really nice to just have next to my chair that I've been using to knit in. So I just have this on the floor with my two projects. And so I have one project, and then the second whip I'm going to show you is actually going to be frogged. So we have that. Wah wah. So let me pull out some of this yarn. Okay. So the first project that I have to show you is a test knit. And so this is a test knit for Arohi of Knit Rohi on Instagram. And this is going to be the tangent top. And so this is all I have so far. And so this is a mock neck sleeveless tank, and so I will insert sort of pictures of her so that you can see it here. And yeah, when I saw this, I absolutely fell in love with it, and I was like, I need to sign up for that test knit, and I was chosen. And the construction is really fun because you actually start out, since it's knit top down, you start out in the round, and then you split for the front and back, and then you join in the round again for the body. And that's all that I'm going to tell you because it will be a page 4 pattern. So what I've done so far, so I'll show you the yarn that I'm using. If you all have been around here for a while, you may recall that my friend Melanie of Woolen Berries on Instagram and I did a yarn swap. And one of the yarns that she included in the yarn swap box was this lovely Oslo wool. And it is made by the Oslo Micro Spinnery. And so she sent me 6 skeins of this in the color Skogs Bar. And this is a 70% lamb wool and 30% silk, and it is hand dyed. And it is fingering weight. It is 200 meters to 50 grams. And so I've had this in my stash since she sent it to me in December. And I'd originally planned to make a shawl with it. And that was the intention that she sent it to me with, was, you know, she sent me enough to make a shawl. So 6 skeins of it. So what is that? 150 grams. Apparently my math skills have gone away with the COVID. But she sent me enough to make a shawl, and that was going to be my original intention. And then when I signed up for this test knit, I'd actually planned to use a completely different yarn, but that yarn was not going to actually be good for the test knit, because this knit is meant to be worn with negative ease. So you really do need a yarn that has some kind of wool content in it. So I looked through my stash for any yarn that were wool blends. I knew I didn't want to do 100% wool, that were wool blends, and I didn't have plans for, and this was one of them. So I landed with this one. And so far what I've done, I've actually just finished the first skein, so this is like the little bit that's left over. And so with this, I've knit the back a few inches, and so what I'm gonna do is actually, with my next full skein, I'm gonna transition to knit the front so that I can knit the full front, without, like, you know, knitting the back, cutting, and then maybe not having enough for the front, just to minimize the number of ends I have to weave in. And then I will add another new skein to the back. So kind of, you know, it's kind of just the way that I'm doing to minimize the amount of ends I have to weave in. Although I'm pretty sure I could probably split splice this because it is mostly wool, but I'm just gonna go ahead and weave in ends instead of trying to split splice. So for this one, let me see what to tell you. I am knitting the 7th size. It is a size inclusive pattern, and the finished measurements are 44.5. It is meant to be worn with negative ease. My bust is 46 inches, and I am knitting it. I actually got gauge on the recommended needle size, which is 3mm needles. So I'm really excited about this test knit. And then the second project that I have in this bag, which is going to be frogged, is a ranunculus. And so if you all watched my acquisitions episode, you will have seen that I purchased 3 hanks of Mojave. Oh my gosh. Of Kelbourne Woolens Mojave. And this is a cotton linen blend. And yes, with the intention of making the ranunculus. And so a couple things here. When I swatched, and so this is kind of also like me knowing that I didn't have tons of yarn, I swatched, and I know that this yarn will bloom, just based on how others have used it. So I swatched, and I wasn't loving the way that it looked at a larger gauge, and then knowing that I didn't want to bind off and block it to really figure out how it worked, I decided to knit the ranunculus at a way smaller gauge. So I believe this is like 22 stitches per inch instead of the 14 stitches per inch. And so that's actually why you can see that the sort of lace portion is much shorter than the increases. And then from there, I just increased as I needed to, and split for sleeves. And then I did do a little short cap sleeves. And I weighed how much I would need for the bottom ribbing, and which is I forget, I think it was like 11 grams, but essentially this little bit that I have here would be what I would need to finish the bottom ribbing. And so I tried it on before the ribbing, and it is just like beyond cropped. Like, this would be like a ranunculus bralette. It's not even like the normal cropped, because the ranunculus is a cropped top, but no, it's like barely covering my actual bralette when I wear my bralette. And so I was just like, nope, not happening. So I had a pretty a pretty intense existential crisis. I actually really like just like broke down. It like broke me, like broke my soul, that I just had spent 3 full days knitting on this, and I was just like, I was broken. I had to just like put it aside. I was like, I can't think about this. This is like too much right now. So I actually did come up with a game plan for this yarn. Although I know that I am on a yarn ban because I need to knit this yarn, I actually did order 2 more hanks from Kelborn Woolens of the yarn, and so I will be repurposing this yarn for another project, but I wanted to show you all the whip before it gets frogged. But I really love this yarn. I'm really excited to knit with it again. So that's how much I love it, that I really don't mind knitting with it again. And so I do have plans for another summer top pattern. And that will probably be knit a little later in the summer. Okay. So acquisitions. Acquisitions portion is very light, as you all know if you have seen my last video. I am on a yarn buying ban for the rest of the summer, all the way through to Rhinebeck. So no more yarn, with the 2 exceptions. Now, it was 1 exception before, but the 2 exceptions, one being the Kelborn Woolens, because obviously I need the yarn to be able to knit a project with it since it's already in my stash, and then the yarn that I will be acquiring for my test knit for Sophie of the Knit Pearl Girl, which will be coinciding with a knit along that I will be hosting starting in August. But in any case, no yarny acquisitions this month, but I do have 2 knitting related acquisitions. If you follow me on Instagram, you will know this first one is the Saturn XL bag from Mood Living. And so oh my God, I'm so excited. I can't even tell you how excited I am. I mean, this thing is like massive. For some reason, so both Casey and of Young Folk Knits and Cece of Stitch Witchcraft have this bag, and you know, were egging me on that I needed to get one for myself. And I will say, I know that it is the XL. There's the Saturn and then there's the Saturn XL. I decided to go with the XL. And I knew the dimensions, but you know when you know the dimensions, but you don't really know the dimensions, right? And then in my mind, like thinking, like both Casey and Cece are incredibly tall women. And I'm a very short woman. I didn't think it was gonna be this big. This thing is like half my size, but I love it. Right now it has 2, yeah, you can kind of see it in there, 2 plates of Thrive. But it is amazing, and yeah, I absolutely love it. So my mom actually gifted this to me as an early birthday gift. I have a birthday in July, and so she gifted me the bag. I asked her if she would be willing to, and she said yes, and so I am so excited for this bag. So again, it's the Saturn XL from Mood Living, and this is in the color Whiskey. So I am just pleased as punch. And now I'm like, do I need to get the bum bag? I forgot what the name of the bum bag is, but I'm kind of like also obsessed with the bum bag. Because like I just have this is like the insights into my crazy butt mind, but I just like have this like picture of myself wearing this bum bag while I'm out and about and just pulling out a pair of socks while I'm in line somewhere. I don't know why. I don't knit and walk. But in my head, I'm like, this is has to be a thing. You know, like I'm just gonna whip out my socks while I'm waiting in line somewhere. Like, ugh, this line is too long. I'm gonna pull out my socks and start knitting on them. This is literally the only reason that I want this bum bag, and I recognize that I have problems, but I have my Saturn Excel, and I am extremely happy and thankful to my mom for purchasing it for me. So my last knitting related acquisitions are actually some charms that I picked up from my friend Maria of Forest Charms. And so this is from her latest collection, and they got here super fast, and I actually picked up one progress keeper and a set of stitch markers. And I forget what the collection is called. I'll have to pull it up. But this is what they look like, and they are just absolutely stunning. So it's one progress keeper and 4 stitch markers. So that was my order from Maria, and they are just absolutely lovely as always. And let me check. I actually think that she might still have some in stock. Yeah, so this is the gilded. So it's the gilded progress keepers and the gilded stitch markers, and it looks like she has a few. She doesn't have the stitch markers in stock, although she has the a similar set in stock, and she does still have a few of the progress keeper in stock, as well as some other things. So if you want to check that out, I will go ahead and link the Etsy shop below so you can get your very own. And so last but not least, that leads me into my July making plans. Y'all, I lost my mind. I signed up not for 1 but 2 test knits after saying that I was not going to be signing up for test knits for a while. So as you all know, I signed up for the Tangent test knit, so that will be on the agenda for this month. And I signed up for a second test knit, and both of these test knits are due on the same exact day, which is August 6th. So my reasoning for the second test knit is that it is again yarn busting or stash busting, and actually I will be able to get quite a bit of yardage out of my stash, and I think that I need another Rhinebeck shawl. I think this might be a yearly thing now. So I will be test knitting the Sun-Kissed Stripes shawl from Tiff Nealon. And so I'll insert a picture for you all here. So in addition to that one, I will be finishing the Tangent. And then the last plan that I have for the month of July is actually to finish my Straya. So hopefully with those 3 knits, they actually all have quite a bit of yardage. It will be able to put me ahead in terms of my or not ahead, actually I don't think I'll still be ahead, but it'll put a big dent into my stashed out goals for the year. And so I don't think that I really stashed down too much since we last since I gave you a last update last month, because the only thing that I actually finished that hadn't been accounted for in those numbers was the cowl that I made that I cannot show you yet, and that was just about 300 yards of yarn, so not much. So we will not have an update on the numbers this month, but hopefully next month I have a really great update for you all with regard to my stash down goals. With regard to this month's videos, I think I'm going to continue the weekly cadence of videos. I have a few really fun videos planned for you. I also will be releasing the Shape Inclusive Designer video, which I promised last month and was unable to film because of coming down with COVID. And I will actually be having a sewing podcast. So a few of you every so often mention that I don't show my sewing anymore. And so yes, I will have a special sewing only episode or sewing only podcast episode, and that's going to be the last Sunday of this month. So definitely check back. I will be posting a video every week this month, all of them I'm really excited about, but I hope that you enjoy those as well. I will be announcing what my knit along will be. So the knit along will actually start in August, so that will run from August to October. And then I have a giveaway planned for later this month as well. So a lot of really fun and exciting things here on the channel. And you know, as always, please do all the things. If you enjoyed these videos, make sure you like. If you want to stick around and see everything that I have planned for you, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell icon so that you're notified every time I post a video. And yeah, I hope that you're enjoying your summer so far if you're in the northern hemisphere and you're cozying up for winter in the southern hemisphere. And I will see you all next week. Bye.